Good.
Great, thank you. We will call this to order. Since we are publicizing these, should we be doing the Pledge of Allegiance, Angela? Bob?
So, no, we don't need to.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. Did everybody get a chance to review the meeting notes from the April 7th meeting?
Yes.
All good, all good. Any updates, any changes? Okay, good. Then they are approved. We actually have a pretty short agenda tonight, although one thing I get to thinking is before we dive into, I forget as well, I'll mention it now, but we should probably talk to see if there's anything under the new business or next focus areas, if you want us to help at all with the website, Bob. You know, we had talked, Joe had a conversation, and so, you know, came up with some ideas, and thanks, Joe, for sending the note out. But if there's any follow-up you want to do, so I just wanted to toss that out there in case you wanted to think about that for a bit as we're going through some of the other stuff. Okay, so first item on the agenda is the status of the PEG channel. Is that, last we had left it, we did meet with them. We had, we're down to contracts. Is there anything that, I think that was in their hands to come back to us, if I'm not mistaken? Is that correct, Bob?
Yes.
Have we gotten anything?
No, nothing yet.
Remind me, did we put a date as we were going to target this month? Or we were going to target next month, weren't we? Committee meeting?
I think in the end, we were.
Because their board meeting was actually, it was just going to be too close on their
Yes,
board
I think-
meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
It wasn't going to be a problem on our end, but their end was going to be too tight.
yeah, the schedule is too tight. So
Yeah.
the plan is then we should all have that wrapped up for the next round of board meetings in June. And I think it was a good discussion that we had with them. I think it's reasonable on the approach. So I think we're in good, and once, you know, obviously take a look once we finally get a contract back. And maybe I'll just, if you'd like, Bob, I can just reach out to Rich and ask him, hey, have you guys had a chance to put together a contract just so we can get some documents going back and forth before the meetings? If you'd like me to do that, I am more than willing to.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. The only other thing on this topic was, has we been able to get John his new computer yet?
We haven't gotten it yet. We're just going over some of the things last week. So he and I need to touch base on all of that to place the order with Andy Badaki from PM.
Okay. Right, good. Is there anything else and any other questions folks have? Or Bob, is there anything else you would like us to be doing on this topic?
No, I think we're pretty close to being able to put this one to bed.
Yay.
I mean, in terms of all of the background, the ongoing will be what it is.
Right. Right. Good. Has there been any issues, John? And I haven't talked to John recently. I reached out to him. Nor have I checked the channel recently. I'm assuming everything's going okay as far as our publicizing, you know, broadcasting meetings and the rest of that.
As far as I know, he has not indicated that there's been any problems. He and I talked about the details of the process. He said that all of that was working well. So.
Good.
Yeah,
Great.
I touched base with him too, and he said everything was going well. We've been kind of going back and forth with the video equipment that he wanted to purchase too, in addition to the computer.
Okay.
Mhm.
We have a pretty good list of cameras, batteries, lights, microphones, all that sort of thing that he'd like to have.
Great.
His office will look like Paramount Studios.
And he will be very happy.
Yes.
Well, and then I think just, this isn't directly related, but once he has all the right equipment, kind of gets into the broader communications plan, right? Now that he'll have equipment, what do we do? How do you leverage that to make sure that we're taking advantage of the investment and across all of our communication channels, Facebook, Instagram,
Right.
webpage, YouTube, all of it. So,
Exactly.
okay, good. All right. Anything else on this topic? Okay, moving right along. The next is the enterprise software. And thanks, Wendy, for sending out the letter that we've been working on. You all had seen the initial draft that I pulled together. Bob and I met with Trish and tried to flush out some of the other miscellaneous information that you see here. I think it's, again, the thought, and I know Trish had concerns that we were going initially with just a letter. But what we talked about was the fact that this letter is just an introduction. There's not going to be any purchasing or final decisions made off of this. It's to narrow down, to a couple of vendors that we think fits the requirements for the town. And then I think it's into more of a formal RFP or at least a formal proposal, so that we've got all the terms and conditions, make sure we've got all the right modules. There's no other gotchas or things that they're trying to do. So that was kind of the net of our meeting with Trish. I don't know, Joe or Craig, did you get a chance to take a peek at this?
I did look at it. I didn't have anything to add to it. I thought it was very inclusive of everything that we had talked about, and it was brief enough to review it by each of the vendors. I think I liked how all the details were in there about the amount of equipment and specifics about what we have. And I think that would be very helpful to the vendors to review. So really, I think it turned out really nice. Thanks.
Joe or Craig, any comments from you?
Oh, it looks good. Nothing to add.
Yeah, and I'm just peeking at it again, and same thing as the first time. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of what again, since this is the first time, one of the things under that I just wanted to check under payroll / benefits. We have different pay plans, right? And I know Trish talked about that. I did not get a chance to go compare this to what she had sent, which was, just kind of our original document, bullet points. I just wanted to, there's probably something that needs to be in here about the fact that we have different pay plans.
She asked me to put in those 2 bullet points at the top.
Just those two?
Yeah. But
Okay.
I can double check with her because I know what you're talking about, where it was 3 different levels.
Yeah.
I'll double check with her before we send this out.
Okay.
And
What did you mean 3 levels?
We have 3 different bases for pay. She had said something. I can go back to my notes.
Yeah, she had said something that, we have more than one pay plan. And I just wanted to make sure we got that documented.
She probably meant, what she meant was police is 1, public works is 2nd, and we would be 3rd, so it's 3 different ways of paying.
But there's, okay, we may need to work on the semantics there because we're paying from 2 different, based on 2 different labor contracts, and then the terms of the personnel policy and pay plan. But other than some different pay categories that create different line items in the budget, it's all being handled out of the same system. So I'm not entirely sure that there's anything that would be that specific that they'd need to know at this point. But I could be thinking something differently than what she is.
And that was the only thing that just is I was remembering and going back through my notes of our conversation that I didn't see in here. And again, you know, we may have it covered or maybe too early, or, you know, that's just, everybody does those, you know, he can handle those
Yeah.
different contracts. I just wanted to bring that up. That was just one little thing. Other than that, I think we've got everything pretty well covered, and it'll be ready. It'll be interesting to see what we get back from folks.
Mindy, on that bullet point where it talks about the pay stubs, email with pay types, deductions, etc.,
Yes,
just refer to the fact that that is subject to collective bargaining agreements and the town's personnel policy. That way they'll understand that how we're coming at some of this stuff. I think that
Okay.
probably will take care of it.
I think that probably would.
okay.
And
great.
considering this is not, should not be unusual. I mean,
No.
it should not be unusual at all, but
Any vendor worth their salt will be used to working with a union environment.
yeah. Okay,
I found the note. She said that we currently have 3 classes of employees, was her words back initially.
Okay. Then that, what I'm talking about will take
Mhm.
care of that.
okay. Good. All right, then I think the next step is to get this letter out to some of the vendors.
Okay.
And
Sounds
then
good.
I volunteered us to sit in and help on if anybody would like to participate in that. As we get into some of the demos and the discussions and the rest of that, we would help with that. And I
I
figured,
do have one question for you guys to get your opinion.
Yeah.
The gentleman who works at Gateway Engineers, who we interact with a lot regarding the GIS system, he offered to help as much or as little as we may need him. And I told him at this point I didn't really see that we needed to have him involved, but there probably would come a time when we would want to include him in some of the discussions. And feel free to tell me when that time might be,
okay,
because I'm not entirely sure how that would all fit in. I mean, I obviously I'm not necessarily going to have him sit in when we're talking about finance, HR, and accounting software necessarily, but when we're talking about the planning and zoning things or building permits or things, we may want that. But if you guys tell me that we need to have that input from Gateway, then I'm happy to make that call.
I don't think we need it now. I think
No.
that maybe when we get some of the responses back, depending upon what type of integrations they talk about, the rest of it, you might want to run it by them. But that's
Okay.
that's my thought. Guys, do you agree?
I mean, I think a lot of the integration work could fall on him. So whenever we get to that point would be when to bring him in.
Okay. Because if we can certainly let him know what vendors have responded, and so he can pass along any of his experience in working with them, working with the softwares. Again, when it's appropriate, we'll bring him in.
Well, and
Okay.
I'm going under the assumption that he basically maintains, he's kind of doing most of your GIS work, high level GIS work inside the system right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of the integration probably would fall to him, and
Mhm.
that would be where the value is.
Okay.
Good.
That sounds good.
All right. Anything else on this topic? No? All right.
I
Hey,
think we'll start getting it out.
good progress
Let the fun
again.
begin.
Let it fun. Yes, let the fun begin. And before we have some of these meetings with the vendors, it might be good, Trish and I were kind of joking around about playing good cop, bad cop. But based upon some of the feedback, we might want to get and do a little prep work before we meet, as we think about meeting with some of these vendors, just to make sure we know what questions to ask, she knows and kind of her perspective, where to poke at. And I'd love to get Joe, Craig, and Joe's perspective on the individual vendors themselves. So I just toss that out there, as that might be something we want to schedule before we sit down, with each vendor. It's a little prep session. Just a thought. Make sure we keep those
Makes
vendors
sense.
on their toes.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right, moving on then to other business, which was thinking next focus areas. Is there any follow-up, as I mentioned at the beginning, with the website? I know John's got a ton on his plate. And Joe, you had a great conversation with him.
Yeah, last I talked to John, he does want to revise the website. He had similar thoughts that we discussed last time in our meeting about revising it. But whenever it came down to seeing what was out there, he took a look at another township website, which also uses the same system as us, and it looked very similar. He has not reached out to Civic yet about what templates are available to us with this redesign. But he said he's willing to do that. Just let him know when the appropriate time is, and he can do that. But it would be still about a $4,500 fee to go to something similar. And that's on top of the $2,200 or so that we pay annually now, which I don't really think is worth it to continue paying for a website that we're not completely happy with.
I agree. I wouldn't invest in redoing it. That's a lot of money. That $4,500 could be used. I'd rather spend the money to get us to something that's going to not only be a better experience today, but has the right platform to grow into the future, which is not what we're on today.
Right.
Right. And if we were to redesign it, I think it needs to have some new features to really justify the price, like online bill pay and things that we don't have right now. And if we had those new features, it might make it an easier upgrade and fee to pay. But just
Maybe we should kick this can down the road a little bit and see what enterprise software we end up going with, so that we get the right plugins available for it.
I would
That's
agree
fair.
with that, Craig. My experience was that we, even though we had used Civic Plus, my former community, we didn't utilize Civic Plus as a platform for online pay. We just worked with a third party that tied more directly and integrated, I should say, more directly with the accounting software. And we had them all working together so that whenever somebody was clicking on the pay buttons, to whether it was a parks program or a bill that was being paid, everything looked the same, but they were two separate sites.
Mm.
And I wouldn't think that there'd be too many vendors or providers for a website that would offer too much. on the online pay, but I could be wrong. It's been a while. Because part of the issue that we have is that you have to have a vendor who will charge the user. We don't integrate the service fee
Mm.
into what we pay. The user has to pay that. It's the way Pennsylvania government is set up.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree kicking the can down the road just a little while.
Agreed. Yeah.
One-
Is this,
One thought
ahead.
that I had, go ahead, Marcy.
no, go ahead, Bob.
One of the thoughts that I had is when we are looking at this, and I don't know whether it makes any sense in anybody else's mind, but I really want the site to be user friendly, and I'm wondering about developing a focus group, in essence, or test group to work with whatever we're coming up with, so that we can hopefully get the bugs out of it before we would launch it. I'm trying to think more of the users in this case than us posting information.
I would agree. I think that's I mean, as we get further down the road in this, I think that'd be a good thing to do. You know, and I'd love to be able to consolidate things so that, you know, you can do everything you want off the web page versus having to have Savvy Citizen and, you know, some of the other stuff that is just, we have a lot of reaches, which is good to have a lot of reaches, but I think it's just, it's not as coordinated as it and simple as it could be.
Right. Exactly.
Just made me think, Savvy Citizen, that subscription something like 2,500 a year, isn't it?
Yes. So if you add that into the mix, that's more money that we could potentially make
Right.
use of.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's other ways to reach out that can be very effective in other cases beyond Savvy, or even the website. So I think this is a time for us to look at how to use that money better
Right.
and get more of a reach.
I think it's a whole communications, a whole constituents communications strategy, you know, constituents and business you know, because you've got a website, you've got something like Savvy, you know, how does Facebook and what we're doing on Instagram and YouTube, how does it all work in together? And that's going to be kind of a big project. And I think we need, when you've got the time, and that's definitely something that's going to need input from your team, Bob, that's, you know, not just something that an external, you know, group can do on our, you know, we could do on our own kind of things. And
Well, I
So-
think, I mean, you guys can be part of that
oh, absolutely.
focus group and help us on both sides, the technical side as well as the human element of it, if you will.
Right. Exactly. So we'd love to kick it off, but I think it's time to, we need your guidance, and Angela probably too from council, you know, when do we want to get started on this? Because it's going to be another broad reaching, and we've got a lot of broad reaching things going on right now. So
I think we have to at least know the direction we're going with the enterprise software
agreed.
before we try to tackle something else.
Right. We've got to fix that first. Yeah. That needs
Right.
to be fixed first.
One thing we
Okay.
could work on in the meantime is just reorganizing what we have now. That way we can carry it forward to a different template or a different service.
Good point.
Great idea, Craig.
It doesn't cost us anything.
No, right.
Craig, do you want to kind of take charge on that one and get some input and feedback?
I'll do what I can.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else then around the website at this point? Bob and team?
Do we know how much usage there is from all the services like Savvy and McCandless and me? And do we have those numbers, or is that something we? would
Yeah,
have to
actually, I
survey?
can,
We
I
actually do.
report, well, John reports them to me every month and then I report them to council. So each month in my report, there's an update and I can easily get that to you.
Okay, I was just curious if we had that information, or if we would maybe have to survey citizens about where they get the information from most often.
Yeah, it's in Bob's report. Or maybe Bob, if you get a chance or minute, just copy that piece of it to us. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
I saw it when I was reading through the last one.
I will be happy to get that over to you guys.
Great. Because that might jog some creative thinking as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are we on
All
a
right.
contract with the website right now, or is that month to month?
Well, it's an annual
Okay.
Maintenance agreement.
Okay.
Is it done on the calendar year? Do you think?
I believe it is at this point.
Is Savvy also like an annual?
Savvy is annual and it isn't, it isn't specifically on the calendar year. I'd have to go back and look at the actual renewal date.
That just might be helpful as we're trying to figure on timing for some of this, to at least know those two pieces.
Okay.
Because because obviously we'd have some migration time and decision time, kind of things as we're
Okay.
planning out work efforts.
Not a
Okay,
problem.
great. Anything else then on the website? Nope.
I don't think so.
Okay. Any other focus areas or other, where you'd like us to potentially go next? We had talked about cameras. We need some grant money for that. We've got the money that's coming in as part of the CARES Act, right? CARES Act, yeah. And we've kind of talked about some 5G. We kicked around some things last time. Has anything else bubbled up from that you'd like us to start digging into?
Nothing specifically. Would been just tied up with other items.
Okay.
But I think as we dig into what I would expect to be another budget amendment that will take into account the federal money, the stimulus money coming in, we'll be getting feedback on some of those items.
Okay. Good. Okay. Last question I had, and then I'll open it up to anybody else. Have we had any luck getting any candidates for the open spot?
Nothing yet.
Okay, so to Joe, and Craig, can you reach out if you know anybody who might be good candidates for this great team here? If we could do some talking up and encouraging, that would probably be a good idea.
Bob, did we reach out to the people who applied the last time we had an opening?
We certainly will be.
Okay.
That as a routine, we do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like we had a pretty big group at the start of this that was quite interested. So hopefully someone still is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay. Well, those are the only things that I had on my list. Anybody else have anything?
I don't
Nothing.
have anything else. Nothing else.
All right, well, we have then a little quiet period until you get that enterprise letter out and we start scheduling meetings with the vendors. It sounds like, and I will reach out to Rich and see where they are on the contracts for the PEG channel.
That sounds great. And I'm about to hit send on the April information on the media, social media for
Great.
all of you. So if you have any questions, feel free to get hold of John or me.
Okay.
And I haven't forgotten about writing an article yet, but just haven't had time. Sorry.
Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, guys. Well, then I would say this is a very quick meeting. We've had longer meetings. So, do I hear a motion then to adjourn for this evening?
So moved.
I think I had a move and a second at the same time.
There you go.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful week. And if anything else comes up, don't hesitate to give a shout, as I know folks won't. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks, you
See
too.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.